All right, for this lesson, you're going to need your portfolio out to page 79, and you're going to need a pencil. So I want you to page 79. Go ahead and look at the 4 vocab words on the left, and I want you to go through and actually bubble in how well you already know these words. 1, if you don't know it. 2, if you recognize it. 3, if you're familiar with it, or bubble in 4 if you know the word. Go ahead and do that for all 4 of those words. Good. All right, let's start with the first one. The first word is dispose. Go ahead and practice saying it to yourself. Say dispose. Dispose. It's a verb, which means it's an action word. All right, let's look at the definition. It means to use something briefly and throw it away. All right, so you dispose something is to use it briefly and throw it away. That's the key word to dispose. It means you throw it away. If we look at the examples over here, it says, after the birthday party, we disposed of wrapping paper. Go ahead and copy down that answer. That makes sense. After the birthday party, we disposed of wrapping paper. We used it, and then we threw it away. So dispose is the same as throwing something away, to put it in the trash, to get rid of it. That's what dispose means. Go ahead and come up with something for the second example. Second example says, I need to clean out my closet and dispose of blank. What would be something that you would need to throw away from your closet that you don't need anymore? All right. Now, let's go on to the next vocab word. Next one is tough to say. It's pronounced legislation. Go ahead and say legislation. Again, legislation. So legislation is a noun. It's a thing. And what it is it's a law or a group of laws. Now, law, legislation, rule, it's all pretty much the same. We have laws or legislation. You must buckle your seatbelt. That's legislation. Legislation is just a $100 way of saying a law. So if I said, dude, you broke the law, I could say, you broke that piece of legislation. Right? You didn't, register your car, or you littered. Something like that would be legislation. That's actually why he's talking about it in this unit, about legislation or law or laws, because we're talking about pollution and littering, which is a law. It's a law that you cannot litter. So let's look at the example sentence. Here it says, our town has legislation or a law that prohibits, and prohibits means stops or forbids, that prohibits skateboarding on sidewalks. All right? Think about it if we actually had that legislation here in our city. Right? Kids couldn't skateboard on sidewalks. So our town has legislation that prohibits skateboarding on sidewalks. I want you to come up with your own idea here. It says one important piece of legislation the government passed is that there's always lots of legislation going on that government's talking about. So if they're going to pass a new one right now, what might it be? Maybe it can be one that you want to be passed, or maybe one that you don't want to be passed. So go ahead and fill this out. Let's go on to the next word. Next word is litter. Go ahead and say litter. Litter. So litter is a verb, which means it's something that you do. And what it means is to leave trash lying around. All right? That's something that, unfortunately, we see everywhere. Trash, all kinds of places. And that means people littered or left trash just on the ground. So if I'm sitting in a car and the person in front of me is smoking a cigarette and then he's done, he flicks it outside the car window, I just saw him litter. That's the action he's doing. That's the verb, is to litter, to leave trash lying around. All right, so let's look at the first example for using litter in a sentence. It says, the mayor signed a law making it a crime to litter in public playgrounds. Makes sense? You don't want trash all over the ground, little kids picking it up and eating it, kids put everything in their mouths. So you don't want litter or trash on the ground. Now, remember, litter is the verb, so you don't want to litter. You don't want people throwing trash on the ground. So let's look at the second sentence I want you to complete. It says, Ellen got in trouble for littering when she describes something or finished the sentence with something that shows that Ellen was littering. What was she doing? Was she throwing something out of a car window? Was she at a park and she threw something down on the ground? What did she throw? That would be littering. So go ahead and complete this sentence for practice. All right. Last vocab word. It's pollute. All right. Say pollute. Again, pollute. So pollute is a verb. It's also something that you do. It's very similar to litter, but it changes the place where the trash ends up. So it says to use harmful materials that damage or contaminate the air, water, or soil. So for this one, it's more like oil is getting into the soil. You're polluting the soil. Or cars, as you're driving, is sending air, smog out into the air, and it's polluting the air. It's a harmful material that is contaminating or ruining the air, the water, or the soil. When it came to littering is like, oh, I have a cup, my Starbucks cup, and I just threw it on the ground. The Starbucks cup isn't harmful in itself. It won't let, if like you're holding it, it won't poison you. But pollute, it's harmful materials. It could be oil or toxins or smog. These materials are harmful, and then they kind of like fuse in with the air that we breathe or the water that we drink. So that's what it means to pollute. Let's look at the first sentence. It says one way to pollute the air less is to ride the bus instead of driving a car. That makes sense. If everybody's on a bus, 50 people on a bus, you don't have 50 cars out there all letting out smog. And so that pollutes the air less. Let's look at the second sentence I want you to do for practice. It says, whenever you blank, you pollute the environment. Well, what can you do that pollutes the environment? Maybe it has to do with smoking a cigarette. Some people smoke cigarettes and the secondhand smoke gets into the environment. When you do something like dumping oil down a drain, that pollutes the water. When you drive too much, these are all examples. So go ahead and complete this for practice.